I'm not able to post on Facebook at the moment, so hopefully this will go live. Just bear with me 1 second, guys. Technology is great when it works well.
There's always a lag, isn't there, with Zoom and the live thing.
Mine seems to have even more of a lag.
There, it's live now.
Right. So welcome everyone to the Cosmic Ascension Waves of Light with myself, 𝗤𝘂𝗍𝗏. And this evening we've got a special interview or show discussion with myself, with Misha Johnston, with Stella Fairbairn, Brad Olson, Laura Eisenhower and 𝗔𝗂𝗍𝗶𝗏. And this evening is all about divine sovereignty. I will explain a little bit about what I know about divine sovereignty and where I'm at with it, to give everyone a little bit of a better understanding, because everyone is in a different place with it and everyone has a different perspective and understanding, and some are very knowledgeable within the divine sovereignty and the divine decree and with it and with the whole process. So I'll just explain where I'm at with it. I've had an extremely traumatic childhood and done a lot of healing on myself. So I've done things like Reiki and sound healing and crystal and color and sound and Buddhism and shamanic practices and all kinds of things. It feels like I've spent my whole life healing trauma, more or less, in one way or another. And last year I discovered the divine sovereignty actually through Laura Eisenhower, who's with us today. And I decided to, she did a video on it. She wasn't planning to do the video, she just did it in her, I think it was her lounge, and did it just off the bat. And that inspired me to do my own. So I went and did my own, I wrote it for myself and said what I needed to say. It was very personal to me. And I've slept with that under my pillow ever since. At the beginning, I felt it was very strong. And then there were times it kind of wore off, because I do get extremely targeted in various ways by negative agenda, including negative military ops and things like that. So last year, I found that Stella had also done a divine sovereignty decree. And I have to say that I wasn't sure at first, not because of Stella, because I think Stella is a beautiful divine cosmic goddess on earth in the physical body. But I wasn't sure about it because it involves taking a little pinprick of blood and putting it down onto paper. And that made me hesitant. I was in the background looking at it for a long time. And then I spoke with a friend recently who encouraged me to to go ahead and do it. And I think with everything that's going on with me personally and all the attacks and everything, I think that I've decided to do it anyway. So, and I think that's where we're at with, you know, with the time on Earth at the moment, with humanity and where it's going, and the war between light and dark. I think that's personally where we're at. So this evening is all about divine sovereignty. So I think I've spoken enough. So who would like to go first? Because I don't have a list of or anything like that. If anyone's pushed for time, please feel free to go first.
If you want me to speak into the blood thing, that might be good to kind of explain that, because, you know, that's something that we get all the time. You know, people think, oh, if I put blood onto a page, that's satanic, it's dark. Well, of course, there's many ways blood can be used, right? Your blood is your divine, it's got your DNA, it's got your God code in it. It is your, you know, beautiful life force. It's your energy source, right? So it's all about energy. When we talk about divine sovereignty, or at least when I do, I talk about it being energy, okay? Because we don't live in a world where, you know, energy is fairly exchanged, shall we say. There's been duping and trickery on our energy. And so what happens when you're a baby, when you come to the earth, is you have a heel prick test. And that is the first drop of blood that's drawn from you. And everyone thinks that that then goes off to be tested, like a DNA test or whatever. It goes onto a Guthrie card and it gets sent off. But actually what happens to it is it goes to the Vatican. And a blood bond is made under a Luciferian contract under your birth certificate name. So that's your name on your birth certificate. For me, it was 𝗟𝘂𝗶𝗆. And a blood bond is then made on that child's blood and energy production for the rest of its life, okay? And then what happens is that soul is owned. That soul is then owned by the Vatican. And when you pass over, your death certificate's cashed in, and it's all a cash cow. Literally, you're being soul syntaxed over and over and over again. So the divine sovereign decree, what happens when you decide to take your power back, you take your control back, you're taking your life force back, you're undoing a blood covenant that you'd no idea about. And let's face it, I coughed my child up. I'm sure everybody here, if they've got children, has all had a birth certificate for your children. So what you're doing is you're releasing the bloodline past, present, and future in divine majestic perpetuity for all eternity, which means your blood group, your bloodline, and your soul can never be relooped again through the wheel of samsara or whatever it is. Now, this is not for everyone. This is a document for Earth liberators. This is a document that's very, very powerful. It's loaded with a thing called spiritual equity. And that spiritual equity is basically a very, very powerful energy source that says to the dark controllers, if you do anything to harm my body, if you do anything to me, if you try and take me out or whatever it is, especially being a targeted individual like yourself, Soma, if you do that, you will receive all the spiritual equity, and that's all the karma of every single bad deed that you have done against humanity or anyone in the cosmos. So that is a very powerful decree to make, and it's a 3-page document, and you notarize each page with your blood. It's a blood stamp you make with your thumb. It looks like red ink, but it's your blood. You're reclaiming your blood, and then you monograph it with your royal seal, and you say, I'm sovereign. I'm not here to talk about, you know, getting out of the system. I'm talking about getting your soul out of Rome completely. Not everyone knows they're owned by Rome. And then there's other steps that you can take after that, which is very advanced. But really, for humanity, if they want to just opt out of this AI, you know, all our blood, when you think about it, is in an AI centralized database. Whether you've ever been to hospital, whether you've had a baby, whether you've ever given blood at the doctor, all of our blood ends up, that DNA signature is in the AI. And what this document says is, here, get me out of here. I'm opting out. I do not want to be part of this. So the spiritual equity side of it, if you think of the metaphor of David and Goliath, it's a bit like, you know, David was given a stone to thwart Goliath. And that stone, if you imagine that stone is spiritual equity, instead of us throwing it back at Goliath, because that would be just perpetuating the war, right? That's what they want. You take the stone, you disengage from Goliath, and you walk away and you go and build the new earth with that stone. So instead of going into contest with the other side, we unplug, we take our power back, and we leave. So hopefully that makes some sense. I'm really condensing a very large subject into a small amount of time.
Thanks, Stella. And Stella, you also have a connection to Magdalene energies.
Yes, yes, I do. There's many, many Magdalenes on the planet right now. And the Sophia essence is here, and it's here as a collective, which is one of the most demonized, persecuted and subjugated soul groups that there is. But this band of women that are here are incredibly powerful, and they are the game changers to change this reality with unconditional love, with compassion, with grace, and with all the qualities of divine love, which we all have in our human hearts. And so we're here to remind humanity that their power of love is much stronger than the perception of the war that we're going through right now.
Thanks, Stella. And maybe, Laura, that would be a good place for you to step in.
Yes, there's a little bit of background noise, and hopefully that won't get in the way. But yes, that's amazing. It's wonderful to be here with all of you, and I really just resonate so much with what you just shared. And yeah, so sovereignty. I mean, to me, being sovereign is being free of the mind control, the social engineering, the capacity to be a free thinker, and the strength to not give your power away on any level. We're obviously going to go through a lot of challenges in life, and life gives us what we need in order to grow. And if we can go through these life experiences as a sovereign being, we can consolidate these challenges and adversities and experiences to gain wisdom, to find our truth, and to discover ourselves and what our greater human potential is. When we're not sovereign, we tend to give our power away to the medical industry, to politics, to the entertainment industries. And it's not all, negative if we can experience it from an empowered and sovereign place, because that will protect us from any subliminals, any infiltrations, any darkness, any unknowing use of even symbology from some, and some are in the know, of course, and know exactly what they're doing. But that sovereignty is very, very protective of one's auric field, and holds space for polarity integration within the being, so that DNA can be upgrading and we can be thriving on our journey, experiencing things like sacred union, finding soul family, and hierogamic union, and really just being connected to the earth and the cosmos and spirit, in the process of restoring the tree of life template and our divine architecture and our full capacity on a DNA level. We aren't able to achieve that if we're not sovereign. We keep reincarnating, we keep looping and patternings, and we tend to dig a hole pretty deep for ourselves if we continue on that course, because the amount of other institutions or individuals on multiple levels can then end up kind of running you and being what sort of powers you, to the point where your creative energy isn't really yours anymore, and you lose the creative imagination, and instead you're running the propaganda, the narratives, the distortions that are fed to us through all these different avenues. So I feel illness and adversity is an opportunity to get closer to our truth and who we really are, what our potential is, and what we're capable of. It helps us also to know how vast our creative imagination is. So when we have an intention and a vision, a dream, or a goal, we are able to be consistent with it and connected enough with it that we can manifest it into the physical plane. Also, sovereignty to me is a direct connect with source. You don't need anybody to help connect you. I mean, doesn't mean that, there isn't helpful assistance along the way, and people that can help guide one to their own personal truth. But to me, sovereignty is just the capacity to have that direct connect, and that anything that they engage in that would be useful or helpful is not to replace that or take that away. And that anybody in a position of being a healer is sovereign in their own right, to the point where they're not looking for dependency. They're not looking to create energetic cords to where they're being fed other people's power. And we're in a parasitic system, and it's kind of like a feeding frenzy, where people require other people's energy to sustain themselves. And especially the dark cabal is I mean, they're all about that, to the extreme. So to me, a sovereign individual doesn't require anybody else's energy, doesn't need to steal anybody else's energy, doesn't vampire off of others, and is very empowered and is more of an activator, and is able to inspire people to step into their own truth frequency and spread sort of the sovereignty through these activations of leading by example, I guess you could say. And to me, it's just the life path and life journey that is what it's all about to be, human. We're here for soul and spiritual development. And I think one of the most important things we attain is sovereignty. And we can utilize these challenges and adversities and illness and anything that has felt harmful and traumatic in our lives to be a tool for our greater growth. We can de-weaponize all these assaults and remind ourselves that these can be tools for our higher growth. And we can transmute the weapons so that we are not victims, and that we're empowered in the face of it to call our power back as it's trying to enslave us further.
Thank you, Laura. Were you going to say something else?
Nope.
Okay, as you were talking, I was just writing down a question there. So I'll go to Brad next. Before I do, so everyone will get a turn, and then I will address the question of if for everyone in turn again. So we'll go around this time, and then we'll go around again with this question of if people are feeling attacked by negative agenda at any level, and divine sovereignty. So I'll just kind of leave that open as a question. So Brad, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Laura's always a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. She's always amazing. Every time I hear you speak, Laura, you're great. And I have it on good authority. She's got a book coming out fairly soon. Probably.
Yes, I heard that.
Oh, yeah. You heard it here first, folks. Well, maybe, hey, taking this, that I'm the only guy on this panel, we sometimes think of the same question in different ways. And I know a lot of guys who are also considering their divine sovereignty would have to agree that our body is our temple, that we are already in the divine space, which is who we are. And so protecting that temple, protecting our bodies, is really our divine right in so many ways. But taking it from a maybe perhaps more of a guy perspective on everything that's going on right now, I just want to remind everybody that what's coming down the pike through these mandates, which by the way are not laws, and recommendations and all these things to get us to do stuff to the temple, the government does not grant rights. The government has no right to grant anything. In a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, the government has privileges granted to it by the people. So let's just remember that everything is being inverted right now. Everything is backwards. And the true Constitution was written to protect the people's rights from the government and to tell the government what privileges it was granted by its people. Keep in mind that in Lincoln's very famous Gettysburg Address, he reiterated that we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So all these politicians or health agencies who are getting up there and telling us what to do, it's the other way around. We'll tell them what to do. They are the servants to us. And on a bigger scale, we all have a duty and responsibility to protect the Constitution of the United States against all enemies. As we know, anybody who joins the military, armed services, takes a vow, an oath to protect the Constitution, to defend it from all enemies, foreign and domestic. So our forefathers not only gave us this right to protect ourselves, but we also have a duty and responsibility to protect the Constitution of this country. And I know this may be going a little bit outside the scope of divine sovereignty, but I think the men who are listening to this podcast would resonate with this perhaps a bit more. So let it be clearly understood, any government official who continues to be derelict in this duty is committing treason and is an accomplice in a war against the American people. Recently, the Supreme Court has made it clear it is up to you, us, the individual, to disobey unlawful, unconstitutional orders. You cannot legally defend yourself by saying you're just following orders. So I think it is time now for all of us to stand up in defense for not only ourselves, but all of the American people, especially children who may not have the fortitude that we have to put out these kind of assertions that we are indeed sovereign entities. And I would love to hear from the rest of the panel too about how this is our divine right is part of this cosmic plan of who we are here on the earth and how we're going to gain our sovereignty as a planet back. Because I think, as all of us know, we are at a very momentous period in human history. And if we get this right, we're going to be going to this golden age, this release of 6,000 plus patents, free energy, 0 point, med beds, all of this stuff, which really is our right to have. It's been developed by people, maybe backward engineered from some ET stuff, but it's here and it's being used by the elite, but they're hoarding it for themselves. And quite frankly, they don't want so many of us around, and they are defying our divine sovereignty. And it's funny when people will question that. I say, well, don't you know that they spell it out for you? They have to reveal their plans. It's even written in stone in the Georgia Guidestones that they do want to depopulate this planet. So really, we're at the point where we're crossing the Rubicon right now, and the line has been divided. And I think we all know friends or family or people we work with where we're very clearly divided about the choices that we're making right now. And those choices all have to do with our divine sovereignty. So really great question to ask us here today, Soma, and hope that's a guy's perspective that you guys can accept.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. And I think what you were saying does involve divine sovereignty, because I think that's where we're at humanity and evolution. That's where we're at. That's what we're facing on a very personal, individual level. That's how we move forward, is by declaring our divine sovereignty and stepping more and more into the love frequency, the love energy. So I think everything, every little single aspect that's playing out on Earth at the moment is it does, you know, divine sovereignty covers all aspects of the whole play, the whole shebang of everything that's happening on Earth at the moment. So it's because it's all connected, you know, and there's many different aspects of the same negative agenda where it's different plays, whatever it is. So thank you, Brad. So yeah, I will include that into one of the questions for the panel. And if anyone else has any questions they want the whole panel to answer, then please do say, maybe do it in a question in the chat. So Misha, you wanted to go next?
Sure. So I want to bring a different aspect. I'm going to speak for what I would say a larger amount of the people who are and have lived in this kind of experience. I myself have, I've had experience with all of this. I'm a survivor of MK Ultra, and many of the people who come to my weekly groups are survivors of MK Ultra and all of the dark agenda that they have put forward for the people and have been doing since probably way before the 40s, but at least we know the 40s. So when I work with people in the groups, I also work with them in hypnosis. And I find that without just about every single time somebody has a regression, I have them go talk to their higher consciousness, their cosmic consciousness, groups and such as that. Without fail, there is always a message that we are on the precipice of the beginning of our life, that we are at the end of the reign of the dark ones. So they'll say things like that. They'll say that we are, they'll always speak about divine sovereignty, about how you're not alone, we are with you. Just there's so many different things, and all of them are giving us a message of hope. Every single person, with just about without fail, has that message from their divine their divine parts, their higher self, that this is the message that they're giving forth. And I do believe that the time is coming very near. And I did receive a message just before, if I may share that, from the collective that I work with. And they said, love is the message that we give from the outer galaxies. We see and we hear your cries and your prayers. Our love of your humanity is what draws us near. And when I saw this, when they spoke, they always show me images, and I saw massive amount of ships coming in. We have not forsaken you, nor will we ever. You are our children. The reign of terror and destruction of your planet is over. And it was, short and sweet, but it made me understand that the galactics that many of us work with are living in a sovereign, they're in sovereignty themselves. They do not have to go by mandates and rules, which brings me to the whole thing about it. And I'm so glad that you brought up the mandates and the rules, because that is very important. Now, we as a population have things that we can do too, and I believe that they are to speak out. That's really our biggest thing. That's the one thing they aren't controlling, is us being able to speak out. So I would say, if you have a chance to go to a rally or a protest about freedom of speech, freedom from mandates, it's very important, and I think it's you're part of it to do it. It also shows your divine sovereignty, that you have the sovereignty to go out there, stand with a sign and say, mandates aren't a law. You do not have to be vaccinated. You do not have to wear masks, because it really does touch people. It does awaken people. And I think it's a really important part. The other part I wanted to say is that people who have gone through these things, and I have worked with a lot of them, have given up hope. And so when you can work with them to help them understand that it's not, they don't have to give up, that they have the power, they have a divine sovereignty, that they have power. And when they stand in their power, they become who they really are, that beautiful galactic being that is now incarnated on this planet. Though the dark side incarnates us over and over and over in similar kinds of lives, we also have wonderful incarnations that we can draw upon to show us the beings that we were, the light beings that we were, and that the beings that we can once again become. And all we have to do is remember who we are. We really are.
Thank you, Misha. And so, Nikki, you're up next.
Hi guys. I thought I'd be last, so I wrote a couple of things down while everyone was talking, because I totally agree with everybody and what everyone was saying, especially with Laura, because of you know, I love all the Lisa Renee stuff and all the divine sovereignty of claiming your own sovereignty. But I think it's about actually getting that out to the 3D reality. All of us have gone through a lot of trauma, and we've learned our tools and techniques of healing and stuff like that. But it's getting the message out to the 3D reality that, you know, if we can simplify it in a way where we, you know, explain to some of our friends and family that aren't exactly awake, or, you know, just about to start to become awake, particularly on the equinox next year. I think there's going to be a big thing happening on that day. But if people could just visually just claim their own sovereign space, like put themselves in a tube around themselves, and just say that to people, you know, just put just a tube around you, and that's your sovereign space, and you allow, you know, what comes into that space and what doesn't come into that space. And particularly with little kids too, you know, if they learn that, you know, if they have this invisible shield, you know, filling yourself up with some platinum frequency just to fortify that and claim that space, you know, because I think there's programs out there that are designed to actually cut us off from our own soul and our own spirit, which is what Misha was saying before about losing hope. But I can tell you now, we're in a chess game right now, you know. It's like we've already won, and there's like a few steps to go, but the other side are like, you know, no matter what they kind of choose, they know they're screwed. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like we've just got to go through those motions of actually being the witness and just observing and reclaiming our body parts. I've noticed that people are coming to me now and having visions of bits and pieces that used to belong to them. I know it sounds kind of weird, but all our body parts and our consciousness is starting to come back to us, becoming more whole. And it's also about the release of mind control and AI as well, of actually being aware of that, and how much the negative ego has really, you know, controlled a lot of us for, you know, thousands of years. And that's kind of breaking down now, and people can see that. But, you know, a lot of us need to do a lot more work when it comes to that, recognizing the AI and the mind control. I know all you guys have done that too. So eventually we'll become, you know, masters of illusion with all this stuff as well. And also when we do claim our sovereignty, our own sovereign space, living in unity and you know, connecting to source and connecting to Mother Earth and being that divine child in the middle, you know, you recognize they're your real parents, you know, and that helps with forgiveness of with your earth parents as well, you know. And so we become like acupressure points all over the planet, these little hubs of healing, and eventually we join together, and it creates a grid. And that's eventually when, you know, all of the collective consciousness will recognize how sovereign and how beautiful and how wonderful and intelligent we really are as a human race, and how we need to reclaim that beauty within us and that love within us that's been lost from thousands of years of conditioning. And I think that we're coming to a big turning point next year. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that's my 2 cents, guys.
Thank you, Nikki. And I have to say, I love your background.
Thank you. It's my my consciousness.
Well, it's out there.
Flowing colors of consciousness. I got sick of doing the backdrops and stuff like that. And every time I move my head, you know, I'm like, oh, stuff all that. So my sister bought this beautiful light, and I'm like, it makes me feel happy. So I thought I'd put it on. So
Yeah, that is really beautiful. And
thank you.
I have to say, I'm getting a bit sick of this as well. Well, not sick of that, but sick of my backdrop. You know, it'd be nice to have something that is actually moving. And that is really beautiful. So I might get my own version. Yeah, so we all know where we're at within human evolution, all of us here anyway, and many others. But so how do we reclaim our sovereignty? How do we do that? How do we reclaim our divine sovereignty? And kind of that's kind of this, I mean, that's a question by Brad, but also that's kind of the same question I had, but for everyone here. But I kind of included, you know, if we're under attack, and this is something that Misha works with a lot, and also Laura and Brad and everyone here actually works with it in various ways. But for people that are being attacked, whether it's psychic attack to a little degree or hugely psychic attacked, or whether it's negative military in a little way or hugely, how does someone, like, how do we come away from that, and how do we reclaim our divine sovereignty? So that's really the question that I'm just throwing out there to everyone. And I don't know who wants to go first.
I'll quickly, if you don't mind, jump in, because I loved what Nikki was saying about, you know, creating a grid and about next equinox. And actually just the equinox just gone, in 𝗍𝗓𝗏 union, a divine sovereign decree grid was launched all around the planet. And for those that can see, it is a purple grid with gold infused through it through a 𝗍𝗓𝗏 union. And basically that is there like an umbrella now. That has slowed down the other camp completely. They have to be really careful, because that grid is loaded with spiritual equity. So even though the attacks and things like that might amp up, they've got to be extremely careful now if they're hurting a hair on a child's head, or if they're, you know, if they're having a go at you. It's like once you become a divine sovereign and you claim that on paper and you serve that to Satan's generals. I think I was saying that to you the other night, Soma. When you give notice to the other side through divine law, through the reclamation of your unalienable rights, which are your rights given by God. Our DNA contains God code. We are all divine beings, but we have to show them that we have reclaimed our body, mind, and soul from the beast of the sea, which is the Vatican maritime law. It's the law of the water. Now, when you look at the word law, it's L-A-W. L equals land, A equals air, and W equals water. Those are the three laws. And what we do when we reclaim our divine sovereignty through our process, and it's not something we charge for, this is donation-based, people can come and do it for free. This is a gift to humanity from the Godhead. What you do is you claim back your body as sacred land, and you notify the ones who are doing the attacking and everything. You've got this grid supporting you now. And you basically serve it back and say, no, not today, Satan. I'm getting on with my work rebuilding the new earth. And that's what it does. So, Brad, I loved what you were saying about defending the Constitution and defending, you know, all those things that have been put in place to protect us. But seemingly now all those rights and everything are being violated and taken away. And the way that the other camp or the dark controllers have been doing that is by serving us public notice. Hollywood is what you make a wand out of, Hollywood. And they are casting spells. They're constantly casting spells into your consciousness of public notice of what they're going to do to you. And unless you rebut it, rescind the spiritual equity back, or say, I do not contract and I do not consent with the message of that movie, they have taken your free will. They have literally taken your free will and sidestepped your free will, which means they don't have to pay the karma. So what we're saying from a divine sovereign perspective is you need to know what you're letting into your consciousness And you need to know how to rebut it if it's something that you do not want to tacitly or silently accept to. So it's a very, very, it's a very long subject that I'm talking about here. We're trying to condense it into an hour. But yeah, the spiritual equity is the thing that nullifies the public notice or any of the attacks. I saw Misha nodding her head there. She knows all about the spiritual equity. Of course, if you're doing healing at galactic level with souls, you'll know what that's all about. So yeah, and when we say about taking to the streets, it's like we've got to be careful, because if we take to the streets too much, that gives the other side the ability to activate martial law. And we do not need martial law as a planet. We really do not need that. That's the last thing we need, because we're going right back to World War II, Nazi Germany, if we do that. So what
I think it's a fine balance.
Oh, totally.
And
the thing is that you're not, what you've got to realize is that the AI is in control here. There's people operating in those office buildings and the White House and everything else, but the AI is running the show. So you've got to serve the AI. The AI is 7 supercomputers, that are all linked up to the Archon network. That's what it's all about. So when you declare your divine sovereignty in all realms, multidimensional, so here on the earth, then in 2D, which is paper, the paper realm, which is hell. So if you ever have been to court and you see all the massive amount of paperwork that's generated per case, they're all running bonds of your blood. So you're monetized. And when you reclaim your divine sovereignty, you're stepping out, you're unplugging from the AI, you're unplugging from the matrix, and you're unplugging from being monetized as well. So it's a really big subject. I'm not going to go into that tonight, but the divine sovereign grid is there. There are souls now. I'm watching the souls who are going up. They've been given a choice. For the ones that feel they've been duped into taking things that perhaps made them very unwell recently, they are given a choice to either go into the AI and go into that soul experience, which is a devolution of the soul, and they're given, they're given information on that, or they can go into the DI, the divine intelligence, which is the evolution of the soul, which is why we're all here on the earth, to help her ascend. And then if they're not sure, they get a golden divine sovereign decree, and they can move in and decide what they want. They can educate themselves, because we all deserve to have informed consent. And that's the thing that's being stripped from us right now. So when you strip informed consent from an individual, you're stripping them of their divine sovereignty. And so our power is to stand up and say, I do not consent, I do not contract, and actually I would like to do my research and make sure I'm fully informed before I give my consent to anything. So hopefully
thank you, Stella. And yeah,
can I just quickly jump in? It's also about not only that, but also healing the divine feminine and the divine masculine, so that we become more unified, because I find that with the trauma out there that has separated our divine feminine and masculine, we become quite electrified and condensed. And this is what's sparking a lot of attacks off. This is what I've noticed, that the more that I healed my masculine and feminine, the less of the attacks I was getting, which is the frequencies that you get hit in the ears and the ringing and stuff like that. So I just wanted to jump in and just add that too, about healing the masculine and feminine and reclaiming those parts back, so that we are more balanced. Because what they're trying to do with this AI is trying to make us more electrified through our wounds, so that condenses us right down, really, really heavy, really condensed, and become too electrified, instead of being more magnetism, which is more on the feminine side, which is what they're trying to cut off. So yeah, healing the masculine and feminine, that's really important, as well as claiming our sovereignty from a legal point of view as well.
Laura, did you? Yeah.
Sure. Yes. Absolutely. Just all of that. And what's really important for us to realize, if we want to be sovereign, like what do we need to do? It's a moment to moment thing. It's about being mindful and conscious, and recognizing that we're elemental beings and have earth, air, fire, water, ether as elemental forces that are also linked to our DNA and our soul essence and how we relate to the outer world. So if we are constantly focused on purification, even detoxification when necessary, of any of these elementals within ourselves, we will be a hospitable vessel for spirit and our multidimensional awareness, and the multidimensional nature and truth of who we really are, and how that also links to our creativity. So when we notice how these elements are functioning in our own being, like the earth being our physical body, air being our thought forms, water being our emotional state, and fire being our drive and our passion, or where we might be in the shadow elements, or the flip side of it all. And what do we need to do to be running the most optimal frequency related to each of these elements? Now, with the presence of ether in a way that hasn't been so accessible in the last 26,000 year cycle, especially with the reversal grids. Now that the sun has started to move through the 13th sign of 𝗑𝗨𝗃, and the activations of the core sun within the earth have really made it possible for us to upgrade on levels that we haven't really been able to, with the alignments going on, planetary alignments, and also the Venus transits and the galactic cores of Andromeda and Milky Way, and all these different things that are happening on a cosmic and earthly level, making it easier to purify. This ether element is able to come in, which is linked to the mitochondrial DNA and also the mother, and the reconnecting of the mother with her children within ourselves and on an external level. So when we do this purification on ourselves, it's going to help us to upgrade our DNA. And so the earth has no choice but to respond to us when we start to unlock those higher harmonic universes, and we start to transcend these lower realms, which through this kind of toxicity makes us very vulnerable to the mind control. And it's all linked to the AI and the dark technologies and all this kind of stuff. So we need to make all that nullified through not allowing ourselves to drop in the frequencies. And the food that we eat and the toxicity makes it very easy to be in a low vibration, which makes us very moody, which throws off our endocrine system and makes us easily triggered. We can't really process trauma when we're constantly processing stuff that's in our food and in our water. So, you know, obviously nutrition is incredibly important, and getting to know like how we operate. If we're working on the air element, are we free thinkers? As we notice the outer elements, our skies are being sprayed, our waters are polluted. There's degradation of environment, extinction of animals. So if we're going to heal the earth, we need to pay attention to what are these elements within us? How are we linked to that? Are our thoughts really our own? Is the skies being sprayed something in our own elemental body that we're being impacted by, where, you know, we're experiencing the mind control part of it? And how's the physical responding to this? Because it's obviously going to affect us physically as well. And are we angry instead of passionate about our mission? Are we just in confusion and bewilderment to the point where we're not taking these challenges to purify ourselves as ways to gain the wisdom necessary in order to make our human vessel the most optimal bioterrain for the best of ourselves to really operate? And so the AI and all these mind control operations are really, you know, like divide and conquer, fear, anxiety, and complacency, or really just giving our power away, or even just greed, or any of these lower vibrations. This is where the AI is able to really take over the human, because the toxicity and all these different assaults have lowered the frequency to such a degree that the AI can infiltrate more and more and more. So if we don't do the daily maintenance necessary to keep our physical body protected from this invasion and this intrusion, and we're not working on it on all levels of beingness, it's very, very easy to find oneself stuck and stagnant. And in stuckness and stagnancy, all sorts of pathogenic forces, parasitic forces grow and replicate and multiply. And how that links into the AI draws one in further and further into the matrix enslavement. So each and every day, in our thought forms, in our diets and nutrition, in the way we process our emotional energies and our thought forms, we have the ability to have ultimate control and divine sovereignty over the way we experience everything. And if we're mindful and conscious in every moment, we can keep these parts of ourselves clear. And with one being clear, it helps to purify the others. If our mind is clear, it's going to help our emotional body release depression or the heavy density that can occupy the water element and pollute it. And if our minds are clear, it's going to help to bring the waters back into the crystalline and help the physical to flow these energies through its system to impact the organs and the nervous system in a really positive way. And then to ignite that sacred fire so that we're directing our passions towards moving mountains and doing extraordinary things and transmuting and healing all sorts of things, instead of allowing the anger and the frustration to consume us and eat us alive. So it's just like an everyday maintenance thing, I would say, is how I kind of maintain sovereignty, is to take care of all the elementals and choose love over all things, not division. I don't care what choices you're making. Let's just stay with the love frequency, because all this stuff, that's all part of the mind control as well.
Yeah. And that should include everything. That there should be no, for me, it includes everything. There's no exclusion there. You know? But thanks, Laura. Okay, there was a quick question I wanted to ask you about the Orion's Stargate. I saw a post recently about Orion's Stargate, and I just wondered if you knew anything about that.
You asking me?
Yeah, just a
Orion's
quick question.
Stargate?
Yeah, just about dates and it just.
Yeah, 8th and 9th stargates that are in the China-Tibet area that correspond with our 8th and 9th chakra, which is the infinity spiral. And we look at the Orion gate as far as how it corresponds with the galactic core energies. For a time period, as the Milky Way has been a fallen system, the Orion gates have been compromised and these wars took place, and the polarity and division just ended up growing, because when the gateways were open, it was definitely connected into the 0-point unified field, and there was a lot more benevolence flowing and a lot more light. That's pretty much all I can say.
It's just, I saw a post the other day, I think it was today actually, about Orion Stargate opening. And
that's a really good thing. Yeah, because that's going to take us beyond the 7 chakras. That's when they really lose a grip on us and we stop being recycled and we're not so easily siphoned from. That's when they really lose a grip, because we start to activate in amazing ways. And we can't really be a food source as long as they're energetically corded into us on any level, any belief system level, any kind of level at all, mind control. That siphoning, that harvesting of our energy is possible. Once we move beyond those levels that are implanted and easily targeted, once we move beyond that threshold and get over that hump, not only do we thin the veils between life and death and the dream world and our waking reality, we are assisting in opening those gateways, and we are able to begin to activate beyond the net, beyond this prison planet, beyond the controllers, and how they're trying to just like monitor this domain and be overlords of it.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. And so who wants to go next?
I'll try to follow up to Laura once again. And Laura, glad you mentioned Prison Planet. As many as you know, that's a subtitle to my latest book, Beyond Esoteric, Escaping Prison Planet. That's really what this is all about, is us reclaiming our divine sovereignty and understanding who we are. Know thyself. And also to understand this false matrix that has been put upon us. I will posit that the greatest weapon is not a gun or a bomb, it's the control of information. To control the world's information is to manipulate all the minds that consume it. And we can see what is happening with the mainstream media and how pervasive that messaging is. And when you drop out of that and move to alternative media, the credible voices here on this panel today, and listen to an alternative narrative about all this, you can see how we have been placed in this mental box to shape our perceptions, to teach us new ways to think that they want us to think, to put things in our body that are not good for us. And so this is part of escaping Prison Planet, is knowing that there has been a concerted effort to control the narrative, much, much more important than anything else, more than the money supply, than the food. I mean, what they're doing to us in so many ways, chemtrails and everything else. To control the narrative is to control our minds and to get us to accept what we're doing with our own free will. You see, because we do live on a free will planet. I know you speak of this quite often, Laura, as well as Misha, and everybody else on this panel knows this, that when we give away our free will, then they got us right where they want us. So that's why I say the control of the narrative is really the most important thing. So when you can break out of that and see the world for what it really is, then a lot of what we're talking about on this panel makes perfect sense.
Thank
A
you.
lot of voice to God technology out there at the moment. I've noticed people who said they weren't going to get the medicine
Yeah.
have done a complete flip around, and they're hearing this V2K, and it's very difficult to discern which is what is real, what you're really getting from your higher self compared to AI.
Are you pushed? Sorry, Nikki, to interrupt you. Are you pushed for time? Because I really wanted Misha to go next.
Oh, that's okay.
No, I'm not pushed for time.
Okay, great. So if that's
Misha
okay,
knows about the V2K. I mean, I've been in her groups and we've talked about it years ago.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, Misha and I have talked about this in our groups like years ago about V2K, and now, and I've experienced it years ago, but now it's like I'm getting more reports of people who experience this V2K. Go and get the medicine thing. So we've got to get the message out there, guys, about people who are starting to awaken up are not having contact with their higher self talking to them. It's a trick. It's designed to think that you're having communication with your higher self, and it's not. It's actually words that you actually hear directing people to go. So that's a part of claiming our sovereignty too, claiming our minds back and discerning the difference between what is real guidance compared to artificial guidance as well.
So Misha, would you like to go next, and then we'll have Nikki after that?
Oh, I've had my say.
Well, along a couple other things that the other speakers have said, that the psychotronic warfare that has been perpetrated on the people for decades, shall we say, since they learned how to do it from extraterrestrials. I shouldn't say extraterrestrial, I should say the 𝗵𝗐 and some of the more malevolent races. So what the jab is actually what they've been doing is this process to test all these psychotronic things, voice to skull and the other different things. Now, and I see it as well, that if you speak to someone who has had the jab, and there is that psychotronic action and a frequency that comes from them, you're right, they're very they're confused because they're getting voice to skull now, like a lot of the psychotronic people from my psychotronic group have had for years. So they've been testing this out for a long time. So now with the advent of the 5G and the jab and the graphite and all the other things that they have in it, now they've got the tools to do it widespread and everywhere. So I don't know what we can do about the people who've had the jab, but the people who haven't have to stand in their sovereign power to say no. It is, again, not a law, it is a mandate. And I understand, yes, protesting's not good. However, when you're working with other people like doctors and nurses that are about to be fired, and you speak out for them, just like Southwest did, they had a, I think they called it some kind of a call out, a sick out or something like that. And they changed the narrative completely. So Southwest was going to fire all of theirs. So we're hoping that if we speak about freedom of choice, that these places will not fire these people, because they'll have too much pressure. That's the whole idea. It isn't about the anger or protest. It's about having them understand that everyone is a sovereign being and has the right to choose what they want in their body, which is the big part of the sovereign that we talk about here. So the other thing I do with the people, encourage them to do is cutting the cords with the energies as they come up and as they clear them, and cancel contracts, and all of those things are very important. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, thank you, Misha. I just wanted to add that I think, and this is probably my own personal view, perhaps, but I think with the protests, I think that we need them, but I think that we have to be careful with them. I think that now, at this stage that we are with the protests, I think they are, I think we need to be careful, because I think if we have, say, 100 people protesting I mean, I've heard David Eisenhower say this, where way back in the day, I don't know if it was in the 60s or 70s, but there was some, or 70s, but in London, where there was protests and no one paid any attention because of the area they were in. And then they had protests in the banking area in London and people paid attention. So I think we need to protest en masse. I think that really makes a difference. I think when there's 100 people or there's 100,000, I think that really makes a difference in the energy and the dynamics of things. So I think we do need to protest, but I think it is a fine balance. I think we need to protest in the right areas.
Oh, absolutely.
Large amounts of people, not just 100 people, but as many people as possible. So,
well, I will tell you that we have the rallies, and we don't like to call them protests. We like to call them rallies. And they didn't ever say that, but people sent the videos out and such, that there was several thousand people that walked down the Las Vegas Strip. That's where I live. So to make a point, because we got to see people from all over the world taking videos, so that gets the message out that and the reason we did that is because the rule that we are under here, the democratic rule that is controlling our state, mostly Las Vegas, not really the state as much as just Las Vegas, is trying to clamp down on everything. So we have to be free. Freedom really is sovereignty as well. So freedom. So yes, but you do have to be careful what you do. Like they have one at the Allegiant Stadium, which is a football thing. I'm not gonna go there. Just not the right place,
Yeah,
so,
because also is that most of them are enclosed, which kind of worries me, because it's easy then to be a target.
We've never had any problems. He has the police actually are watching us, because the police here are very much on the side of the freedom, because they're also in the mandate. So yeah, but anyway, to get back to the subject matter.
Thank you, Misha.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I don't know if we should wrap it up, if anyone has anything else to say. Nikki, are you sure you don't want to add more, because you didn't get to say very much there?
Yeah, I just thought it was important just to jump in when Brad was on the subject of actual you know, the AI and the control and claiming sovereignty was with the V2K, because I know what that's like. I've been through it. But you know, and it's sad to hear that people are actually out there losing hope. That's really, really, really sad. The thing is that I'm getting a lot of information. A lot of people are getting that feeling too, that March next year is really going to be a tipping point for the fall of the mainstream media. You know, and once that big ice cube flips up and shows that big ugly side of it, you know, that's going to be the start, I think, of some major cracks in the 3D reality. Because, you know, we've got, say, about 80% in Australia. I can tell about 80% of people still aren't quite awake. We've got about 20%. So we really need to push for that, and that is happening, and those energies are here. The triple goddess is here, the divine feminine is here, those energies are here, the solar rishis are here. They're all here in the center of the earth, actually helping the grids and to clear up the inversions and stuff that'll ripple out. So that energy is there to help us. So I would get ready for March next year, guys. I think that's going to be a huge turning point for all of us, but we'll have a huge major shift, and we'll all be very, very busy. I think we'll be really busy next year helping everybody.
And I think the way to go is, I've been shown by the Pleiadians that the way to go really is to move into smaller communities, spiritual communities, or any type of community, small community, and start growing our own food, have own water, clean water supply, come away from anything that we are reliant on that's external to us. So taking back our control over our own food, our own water, our own medicine, and turn it back into herbs, or start growing herbs for medicine. And I think that's what it's all about. I think that's where we're going. I think that's where we need to go. And I do see a positive outcome. And I know Laura is at some stage starting up a healing center. Laura, would you like to share anything?
Yeah, and I think that's just so important that we all focus on is what's going on in our local communities, what we need to do to prepare, how we can support people leaving careers that are compromising them. And it's really, really good to see how many people are standing up, and like the In-N-Out Burger in San Francisco, and the Southwest airline thing. And
In-N-Out Burger?
Oh, they shut down the San Francisco one because they refused to be policing people as far as the mandates. Mm-hmm. And there's just a long list of these kind of, stories of people refusing to go along with it. One of the first stories was the guy in New York with the gym. And that kind of thing will spread as long as those individuals have a voice, because it inspires other people to do the same. And when we know that we can pool our resources and sort of turn to each other, although we have to protect our own resources as well, we can starve this beast. We don't need to participate in a dying matrix. So it's like a breakup that we need to accept. You can't still hold on to that toxic partner and expect things to change. You can do your best to try and heal it while you're in it, but at a certain point, it's time to walk away if it's not going to budge. So anyway, I'm trying to, just get this land, have a retreat center, eventually maybe a healing center, and also a center or a place for children who have lost their parents. And I want to work with people on just the whole idea of, like, when these children, lose their parents, there's going to be a huge number of them. Where are they going to go? Are the government's going to just snatch them up? That would be horrendous. Yeah. So that's a really important thing to focus on. So I'm going to be working with Dr. Christian Northrup and Seth Pruzansky. And that's kind of to be announced to see what we can do in this arena. They've done a lot in their local area, and just to kind of like network with people, like, what do we need to do? How can we be supportive? And raise funds also to help people transition out of these jobs or careers or lifestyles that, and also how can we stand up and do something to change the system and inspire it to drop the BS, like some of the stories you guys were talking about. And those stories are a lot. So yeah, I'm hoping that all happens. Right now, we're just sort of working on homesteading here on our little plot, but it's in the works, and I'm really excited about it. And Montana is a beautiful state. It's the only state really that isn't discriminating. You can get a job and do pretty much, there's no mandates basically. So that's a good thing. So yeah, my website's 𝗏𝗂𝗿𝗆𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and I have a weekly show, alternative, censorship-free platform, Conscious Vitality, and you can find that info on my website. And it's just been so amazing to be with all of you. So
It
I
wouldn't have
just
been
want
the
to
same
say,
without-
Laura, if I may, just want to say, because part of the divine plan from the 7D ascended Gaia perspective, everyone in 7D Gaia, Sophia, lives in what's called synarchy. And that's exactly what you're starting to talk about, is to go into that spiral of synarchy. And synarchy is where we form divine sovereign communities. So I love Michael Tellinger. He's a mutual friend probably of many of us here. He's doing the One Small Town project. I'm close to Michael at the moment. And that is the synarchy model. That is where we're going, because the 7D Gaia collective works in that synarchy forum. And that is where we're all celebrated for our uniqueness as divine sovereigns, but we're feeding the whole. We all have to do a little bit of hard work occasionally, but then we get the rest of the week to do whatever we love, you know, growing, working with children, working with the animals, making music. But the one thing I didn't hear tonight that I just want to add about being a divine sovereign is that we command the law. We are taking control as divine sovereigns, and we're saying no more to this abuse, no more to this absolute tyranny. And if you come near me, you'll have to pay 108 trillion UK pounds backed by gold into my account first. How would you like to pay? That we have to command it. We have to stand in that God and Goddess power that we have been given in our DNA and create the new world. And that's what we're all here to do. And what an honor it is to be with all of you tonight. You're all amazing.
Thank you, Stella. That was really beautiful as well. So, I mean, I could just keep you guys here for all night. So, I'd love to do this again. So is there anything else that people would like to share with perhaps a parting message for humanity or our audience? And then if we can share your what you've got going on at the moment, if you've got any courses or workshops or talks coming up. I think Brad's got a talk coming up in Las Vegas soon, and your websites. So, but if we could start with what I was just saying.
Sure. Well, I guess you mentioned my name. Misha is going to be there as well. We're both speakers at the 5D conference in Las Vegas, coming up in 2 weeks from today. It starts, so you can get your ticket at 5devents.com. Yeah, right after Halloween. Maybe when a lot of big stuff's starting to happen. So it'll be a good time to get together for a conference, see all you guys live. They're also doing a live stream, so you can check that out too. I think my final parting word is just everybody stand in your power. Realize that our bodies are our temples and it's worth defending, and you have every right to exert your free will and do what you think is best to you and your children if they're young. You speak for them. No government, school board, or anyone else. They're for you until they're of a legal age, but most especially for yourself, just to realize that we're at a very crucial moment in history, and what we do and do not do to ourselves is really very important. So thank you guys for having me on. I learned a lot from all of you, and really, really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Brad.
Oh, real quick, yeah, I have an online event November 1st and 2nd, and it'd be good to join my Telegram. It's on my homepage, 𝗏𝗂𝗿𝗆𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏, and on my YouTube channel, there's more information about it, but it's a 2-day event. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And it's called Activating Conscious Evolution, with a number of speakers. And yeah, I just posted the link on Telegram, and you'll find the info somewhere on my website. If I get around to post it, I'll do that right now. Okay.
Okay. And do you have a message, Laura?
Just, the sovereignty, just be in command, like Stella was saying. We have powerful creative imaginations that they want to infect with propaganda, narratives, fear, a future that we don't want to create. And if we believe it, if we feed it, we enable it. And if we have any kind of like attachment to it, we are participating energetically. We can be neutral observers to a certain degree and still take action and be mission orientated, but from a sovereign place, as activators, as people who lead by example, that are just willing to answer to a greater calling, and it's there within everybody. And once we unite on this type of thing, the power of our creative imagination can infuse our creative channels with the dreams and goals and visions of a beautiful, beautiful future, which is encoded in our DNA and nature to be able to create. We are wired to be able to heal and transform and upgrade if we can just remain sovereign and have a direct connect with source and our own higher mind, our own intuition, and our own internal guidance, and it won't steer us incorrect. So let's just keep ourselves in check and have each other's back and link arms and do this together.
United we stand.
Thanks, everybody. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Laura. It's been a delight to have you. Well, it's been a delight to have everyone, but yeah, thank you.
I'll go next. All right. Of course, Brad has already told you about the 5-day event. So that is that, the 4th through the 7th at Golden Nugget. And I will tell you that there are a lot of hotels around there. It is Fremont Experience. So if you look at Fremont Experience, you can find lots of hotels around there. But of course, if you can stay at the Golden Nugget, they'll be the best. But what I want to also tell you is the most dear to my heart is the support groups. I do facilitate 3 a week for people with different topics from the Starseed Awakening groups to hybrid groups, for groups for specific kinds of contact, positive contacts. And then we also have groups for different types of ETs, the reptilian group, the Greys group, so that you can find out that there's good and positive in every race, including the human race. We have groups for MyLab experiencers. I have groups for the SRA, Monarch, trafficking. In fact, that group got me, the minute I started that group and put my events out, it got me knocked off Facebook. So I've got back on Facebook, but because I need to, otherwise I wouldn't be there. And then group first, MK Ultra, Secret Space Program, Super Soldier, a group for targeters. So there's mini groups, 3 groups a week. They can look it up at starseedawakening.org and find those groups. And those are always free for anybody to come. And you talk to people from all over the world and realize you're not alone. So that's me.
Thank you.
Oh, my message, I guess. My message would be to, we are wonderful generators, manifestors. We are really much, much more than we could possibly imagine. All we have to do is remember our ability to remember who we really are, that we are beings having a human life, but yet we are so much more, and we have the abilities to stand in our power. And when we do stand in our power, we realize they do not have the power that they think they do. In fact, they find that off really fast when we do stand in our power. And so people have the ability to manage the experiences that they're having strictly by realizing and standing in their power and being these sovereign beings and understanding that they only have the rights that you give them. You're only going to be chained as long as you keep hanging on to the chains. You can release them and be free.
Well said, Michelle.
Thank you. I didn't say it, they did. I'm not much of it. I don't really like speaking in public. That's why I do support groups, so I don't have to speak. But they like to come through every now and then.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same. If it wasn't for the Pleiadian channeling, I wouldn't be here,
Mine are Syrian.
Okay.
You can sometimes feel that from them.
Yeah, Syrian too. I'm doing some remote viewing. You can find me on Patreon. My website's down at the moment, guys, but and you can find my show on Sundays or Saturdays at 6 p.m. Truth Frequency Radio. We talk about remote viewing sessions, healing, Tartaria experiences, and
that's
ET
6 p.m. Australian time.
At 6 p.m. on Saturday in America, and it's Sundays at 11 p.m. in Australian time. Yeah, that's Truth Frequency Radio. You can see my shows there, and Patreon. You can find me on Patreon, Nikki Colombo, and I do remote viewing sessions, healing sessions, one-on-one people, and I'm loving that at the moment. Oh, yeah, and the message, yeah, love yourself. We need to love ourselves more, and realize how powerful we really are. And that we've just got ego and everything in the front, negative ego, that's just kind of in the way of that, and to reconnect with source and stay neutral in the neutral hara line, and try not to be pulled into the left or the right of polarity, and stay as neutral and being in the present now as much as as everything is like be the eye in the storm. Be the eye in the storm and love yourself. That's my message.
Thank you, Nikki. And Stella?
Well, my parting message would be that at the 11th hour, which always happens, is the divine and the company of heaven are here to help people command their divine sovereignty. And so we have a website. If you want to go to reclaimdivinesovereignty.com, you can start to educate yourself how you get out of this matrix, because it's not just a spiritual thing, it's also a commercial thing. And that's where, you know, common law, natural law, cosmic law, universal law all comes into play to release souls. I'm way too busy behind the scenes right now to promote anything at the moment, but all I'm saying is get your soul safe, everyone, because you need to come up into that new timeline. And that lawful divine instrument is here on the planet. So reclaimdivinesovereignty.com, go there, educate yourself, and see how you get out. And there is hope, because the instrument is here, and it's here to liberate all souls, even animals.
Thank you, everyone. You know, it's been really delightful to have all of you here, and I do feel a big connection to all of you. That's why I chose this panel, really. So just thank you, everyone, for being here, and would love to do more with all of you, both like as a group and also individually again. And I think that's it, unless anyone's got anything else to say.
Well, give us your closing message.
Oh, my closing message would be to take back your power and reclaim your divine sovereignty, heal what you need to heal, move forward, leave relationships if you need to leave them, move forward, and just keep moving forward. And sometimes it's very hard to do that, or overwhelming to do that. If you're in a very dark space, it seems overwhelming to move forward to where you want to be. So then take the pressure off yourself and do it in smaller steps, day by day, rather than trying to create Rome in a day. Do it step by step. I think that would be my parting message for today. And we are so much more powerful than we've been told, dumbed down, conditioned, taught to believe. We are vast, immense beings of love and light, and we need to raise our frequencies and reclaim not just our sovereignty, but also our divine cosmic connection, ability to communicate with light beings like the Pleiadians or Syrians or whoever it is. And just be love, step into that love frequency.
Thank you so much for hosting us. Much love, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Great with everyone.
To you all.